Hello class, as promised, this is the video lesson about our third lesson in purposive communication, language registers. Language register is defined as the level of formality with which you speak, meaning whenever we talk or we engage into communication, we use a certain level of formality that fits to the occasion. Ibig sabihin, for example, you're talking to a friend. So, there's a certain level of formality, of course, that you're using when you are talking to a teacher or a professor or someone of authority. You'd be practicing maybe a higher level of formality. So, that adjustment in our formality is what we call language register. According to Eaton, different situations and people call for different registers. As I have said, whenever we engage into communication, we decide on how much formal or what level of formality we practice, depending on the occasion and depending on the audience that we are engaged with. As for its importance, knowing what the various registers are, how to differentiate them, and when to use one increases your chances of being accepted by groups and speakers in a variety of contexts. Of course, if you know how to adapt your language register depending on the context or depending on the audience you have, it would be easier for you to get their attention. Somehow, we can expect that communication may be effective because you are addressing your audience in the right way. For instance, if you would be in an interview, in a job interview, and you would be using the correct language register as an applicant, surely the interviewer would appreciate you as a communicator, would understand what you are saying. The same way na parang pag may kumakausap sa atin, diba, if someone we don't know talks to us as if parang may pinagsamahan tayo, di ba parang minsan offending siya or sometimes parang it's weird, it's off. Kasi di ba parang ay feeling close, ganun. So, ganun lang din siya. So, it's important that you know how to adjust your language register because it will somehow help you become accepted whenever you would engage in communication. Kumbaga parang dapat alam mo what your place is, anong lugar mo, anong pwesto mo sa isang conversation. Now, there's this universal rule that we follow whenever we engage in communication about language register. Sabi dito, if you move one level from the appropriate one, you may still be socially acceptable. But moving more than one violates others. If you are engaging into a conversation with a teacher and you somehow used a language that is casual, medyo kumasual ka ng konti, yeah, it could somehow be socially acceptable. But if you go way lower than that, like intimate language register, pwedeng offensive na siya to the teacher and to anyone who would be listening or overhearing your conversation. So yun yung sinasabi natin na when you go one level higher or one level lower in language register, pwedeng okay pa siya pwedeng katanggap-tanggap pa siya. But if you go beyond one level lower or higher, ayun, baka magkakaroon na ng problems. Baka magkakaroon na ng problems with sincerity, with your integrity, alam niyo yun. So, yun yung universal rule about adapting your language register. Now, let's talk about the different types of language register. Of course, we have a frozen register, and then we have the formal register, and then we have the consultative register, followed by the casual register, and the last one, the intimate register. From the word intimate, siguro you're somehow with ideas about what this register is all about. So, talking about frozen register, it is about language that is literally frozen in time and form. From the word frozen, meaning it's stagnant. It's the same. It's always the same. It remains as is. Kung ano siya noon, yun pa rin siya ngayon. It's frozen. Fossilized, kumbaga. Fossilized language na siya. Okay? So it does not change, obviously. And this type of language is often learned and repeated by rote. When we say rote, meaning repetition. Okay? We learn it by repetition, by constant exposure to this language. Alam mo yun? When do we usually see this? Bible verses, diba? It's the same from the time it was written up to now. It is always the same. Prayers. even Pledge of Allegiance. It's always the same. Those are frozen language. I mean, these are frozen language. Frozen register sila. It's always the same. You cannot deviate from this. Basta pag sinabing Bible verse, this is how it is said. This is how it is written. Tapos. Okay? So, frozen talaga siya. Yun lang naman. So, when you are asked to cite a Bible verse, then you would use a frozen register. Meaning, it's not gonna be formal, it's not gonna be casual, it will be delivered as is. Kung paano siya sinulat or sinabi noon pa man. Okay, now let's talk about the formal register. So, as I have said a while back, this is the standard register that we follow. So, it is impersonal and often follows a prescriptive format. Kapag sinabing impersonal, it's the opposite of personal. Sabihin, it's not unique to you. Sabihin, it will not be affected by your biases, your personality, okay? No matter what your social class is, no matter what your position is, no matter who you are, formal register is standard. Hindi dapat siya maapektuhan ng background mo. And often follows a prescriptive format. Pag sinabi nating prescriptive, from the root word prescribe, di ba pag sinabi nating prescribed, sabihin pang advice siya by expert. Ito yung in-advise na expert na gawin or gamitin. Meaning, formal register is standard. It is what the experts are using when you're writing something technical or academic. You're using the formal register. Sabi nga dito, the speaker uses complete sentences, avoids slang, and may use technical or academic vocabulary. Okay, standard talaga. You know, like when we discussed world Englishes, diba sabi natin, there's, despite the existence of different versions of English across the globe, we follow a standard English. So, parang ganun to, yung formal register. Okay? That we write and we speak in complete sentences, we avoid slang or informal words, yung colloquialism, sinasabi natin before, and we can use technical or academic vocabulary, meaning specific words, educated words. Okay? Involves a large vocabulary of educated words. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina. Di ba when we say someone is educated, we mean that the person is smart, or maybe refined. So, pag sinabi nating formal register, we are using a set of vocabulary that is educated, refined, polished, maayos, matino, formal. Yun lang yun. Okay? It is likely that the speaker will use fewer contractions but opt complete words instead. Ibig sabihin, since we are using formal register, ibig sabihin standard English, kung tutusin, standard English, when we talk, we refrain from using contractions. Pag sinabing contractions, yung mga words na pinaiksi. Kasi yung mga words na pinaiksi na yun, most of them are considered informal. So, we use fewer contractions. Okay? Binubuo natin yung mga salita. Of course, there are words na hindi mo pwedeng isulat ng complete palagi. Like acronyms and abbreviations. Syempre, there's a certain rule for that naman. So, there are different rules we need to follow when writing a formal register. Kumbaga, ano ba yung mga technical writing rules that we need to abide with kapag ito ang ginagamit nating register? First, do not use contractions. As we said, in formal register, we refrain from using too much contractions. We use complete words. So, these are not usually used in formal writing, though these are common in spoken English. They should be spelled out in formal writing. So, dapat daw yung contractions mo spelled out. Binubuo mo siya. So, you should use cannot instead of writing can't. Use have not instead of saying haven't. And will not instead of saying won't. So, there are a lot of other contractions that we use in spoken English, in informal writing. But in formal register, we refrain from using those. Like, gonna, instead of writing going to. So, dapat iwasan natin yung mga ganon. Okay, so again, the first rule in using the formal register is to not use contractions. Second, spell out numbers less than 10. So if you are going to cite a number from 0 to 9, you should spell it out. Okay? But if it's 10 and above, then you can write the numerical form. Third, write in third person point of view. In formal writing, we usually do not use first person or second person unless it is a quote. When you are putting a quotation in your essay, for instance, yes, you would write the quotation as it is. Frozen register yun eh. Kumbaga, it's should be read. Kumbaga, it should be written the way it was said by the original speaker. Okay, by the origin of the quotation. Pero, in your actual writing, in your actual essay, you need to use the third person point of view because it is what we use in formal writing. Meaning to say, you're going to refrain from using pronouns like I, me, my, mine, kasi first person point of view yun, or the pronoun you, which is a second person point of view. Fourth rule, avoid using too much passive voice. Active voice is used in formal writing kasi nga formal register. Okay? So we need to follow the formal writing rules. Kapag sinabi nating active and passive voice, it's all about the subject and the verb in your sentences. Paano yun? Look at this example of passive voice. The bone was eaten by the dog. But in active voice, it will be the dog ate the bone. Meaning to say, kapag sinabi nating passive voice, the subject is the receiver of the action. Siya yung tumanggap ng kilos, meaning sa kanya ginawa yung action. Pero kapag sinabi nating active voice, from the word active, gumagalaw, kumikilos, yung subject, siya yung gumawa ng action. Look closely at the examples. In the passive voice, the bone was eaten by the dog. Our subject is the bone. And you see in the sentence that the bone was eaten. Meaning, yung bone yung nag-receive ng action. Siya yung tumanggap ng kilos. Siya yung kinain. Pero, in active voice, sabi nga natin, yung subject ang gumagawa ng kilos. And our subject in the active voice sentence here is that the dog ate the bone. The dog is the subject, and the dog ate the bone. Yung aso yung gumawa ng kilos. Siya yung kumain. Okay? Yun lang yun. So, whenever you're using the formal register, use active voice instead of passive voice. Fifth rule, avoid using slangs, idioms, exaggerations, or hyperboles, and cliches. These are common in formal and spoken English, but in formal register, we refrain from using these. So, a slang is, again, an informal word that we use in conversational English or conversational language, like awesome, cool, okay, check it out. So these are words that we use only in informal conversations. So you cannot use that in a formal register level. Common cliches. Pag sinabi natin cliches, yung mga parang frozen kasabihan, frozen lines. Okay? So, common cliches. Like, too much of a good thing, moment of truth, time is money, or don't push your luck. Bakit? Kasi pag sinabi natin cliche, it has been known by everyone. Or naririnig natin most of the time. So if you're going to use these statements or these words, nawawala ng originality yung formal writing mo. So, refrain from using those cliches na. Sixth, avoid abbreviations and acronyms. But again, there are instances, of course, na hindi mo pwedeng iwasan ang paggamit ng abbreviation and acronyms, especially if a term is very long. So, halimbawa, yung National Aeronautics and Space Administration or NASA and influenza or flu. It's not advised that you use abbreviations in formal register. Kagaya yung dalawa sa baba. Yung influenza as flu and without as W/O. Yung dalawa na yon, as much as possible, we should avoid those abbreviations because you can easily write the spelled out or complete versions, yung formal versions. Pero dito, sa mga acronyms natin, yes, we can use them. Just make sure that the first time you use it in your writing, you spell it out first. Okay? Kumbaga, the first time you're going to use NASA in your essay, you should spell it out. And then after that, the next time you would be using the term in your paper, pwede mo na siyang isulat as is, NASA na. Syempre, if you're going to use NASA, the acronyms agad, some people may not be aware of what NASA stands for. So, kailangan talaga, the first time you use it, spell out mo muna. So, the next time you would be using it or the next times you're going to use it in your paper, gets agad ng mga audience mo what you're referring to dun sa may acronym na yun. 7. Do not start your sentences with words like and, so but, also, yun. Some good transitional words or phrases that are being used are nevertheless, additionally, however, in addition. Itong nevertheless and however, they are somewhat the same. Halos parehas lang yan. Okay? Kumbaga, gayon pa man, yun yung Tagalog or Filipino translation of that. And then additionally, in addition, when you're adding more information. So, pwede mo rin palitan yan ng moreover, furthermore. So, there are a lot of traditional words and phrases that you can use in formal writing. Pwede nyo i-search yan sa internet, like, look for formal transitional words for essays, mga ganon. Madami yan. Yung mga consequently, conversely, on the other hand, mga ganon. And then 8, always write in complete sentences. Sabi nga natin kanina, in formal register, we use complete sentences, avoid slangs. And also, we are encouraged to write longer, more complex sentences because we are using formal register, because the formal register is usually used in academic writing or technical writing. Kaya expected that you would be writing in complex sentences. Educated writing, kumbaga. So examples of formal register are textbooks, dictionaries, sermons, business letters, and academic writings. So obviously, if you look at these examples, alam mo agad that they are using formal language. Kaya formal register ang gamit. Okay, the next one is the consultative register, from the word consult. Okay, this is the register you're using when you are consulting an expert, such as a doctor. So if you will be talking to a doctor, consultative register ang gagamitin mo. This language is more precise because when you are consulting onto someone, you have a definite purpose in mind. So your language is precise. It's straight to the point. Here, the speaker is more likely to address the expert by a title such as Dr., Mr., or Mrs. Yan. So, kasi nga it's consultative, you are communicating to someone of expertise dun sa may topic na gusto mong pag-usapan. This register daw. This register is formal register used in conversation. Bakit? Because in consultative register, it's formal in nature. Naturally, formal siya. Okay? Whenever you would be using this, it's formal. Pero yung formal register kasi is mostly used in writing, in formal writing. But if you would use formal register on a conversation, on a discussion in an oral communication context, it becomes a consultative register. Kasi syempre when you talk to an expert, when you talk to someone of authority, di ba syempre you practice formality. So that is the consultative register. It is used in professional communications, like when you talk to your boss, when you talk to your head, to your manager, syempre you talk formally, di ba? So consultative register na yun. Examples are memos, job interviews, di ba? When you do job interviews, it's formal, but it's very much respectful because it's in consultative register nga. You're talking to someone higher than you, okay, in status. Business meetings, of course. Newscasting. So, an example of a speech in consultative register is this. Good morning, ma'am, sir. I would like to ask for your advice regarding the methods that I should use in my study. You see, it's formal in nature, and you see respect because the writer is talking to someone of higher position than him or her. Next one, our second to the last register, is the casual register, from the word casual, meaning it's conversational in tone. It's what we use when we are conversing. It's the language used between and among friends. So if you're just talking to a friend, to someone close to you, you would use the casual register. In here, words are general rather than technical. Diba sa formal register and consultative register, the words that you use are educated. The words that you use are technical or academic because there's a specific topic you're discussing. and it is expected to be in a professional context. Okay? Kaya, ganun yung mga ginagamit mong words. Pero dito sa casual register, the words are general. Paano general? Kasi this register may include more slang and colloquialism. Ibig sabihin, you use a vernacular speech. Paano po yun? Whenever you talk to a friend, surely, that friend and you share a certain background. Meron kayong pinagsamahan. And that results to you being able to understand each other, anumang language ang gamitin nyo. Kumbaga, halimbawa, when you're talking to your friend, nagkatitigan lang kayo. Di ba, minsan alam niyo na kagad kung anong gustong sabihin ng isa't isa. Or, may secret codes kayo, may mga messages kayong kailangan nakakaintindi. So, no matter how general your words are, you understand each other. Kahit hindi specific yung language na gamitin nyo, you understand each other. Kasi nga, meron kayong pinagsamahan, merong background, meron kayong rapport na na-establish, may connection na agad kayo. So, no matter what language you use, no matter what words you use to talk to each other, nagkakaintindihan. Okay? Hindi kagaya sa formal register or sa consultative register, kailangan precise yung language mo, kailangan malinaw. Kasi you need to make your audience understand kung ano gusto mong sabihin. Kasi hindi naman sila connected sa'yo. Wala silang background about who you are, wala kayong connection talaga. Okay? Pero sa casual register, since you're just conversing to a friend, magiging madali yung paggamit ng language. So again, it's using more slang and colloquialism, informal yung nature ng language ninyo. And you use vernacular speech. Pag sinabi kasi nating vernacular, it means dialect. Okay? Kumbaga yung language na natural sa inyo, sa grupo ninyo, or sa lugar ninyo. So, since you are talking casually lang naman, you can use your vernacular speech. Hindi kailangan precise speech, hindi kailangan academic, hindi kailangan technical yung vocabulary yung gagamitin. Examples, when you're chatting to friends at a party or social setting, talking about your day to your family at a dinner table, yan. Siyempre, when you talk to your family about what happened to your day in school, siyempre hindi ka naman gagamit ng language na pang gumagawa ka ng thesis or you're writing a research paper, di ba? Siyempre, you will be talking in a manner na very relatable to them. Hindi pwedeng takang alien kapag usap ka. Kasi nga casual tayo dito. When you're discussing hobbies or interests with a close colleague, or getting excited for a football match or tournament. Finally, we have the intimate register. This is the last type of register we're going to talk about. From the word intimate, this is used by lovers. The language here is used by lovers. It is also the language used in sexual harassment. Paano naging sexual harassment, sir? Pang mga lovers to. Diba? Since intimate register is used by lovers ng mga magjojowa, ng mga mag-asawa, ng mga may relasyon, romantic relationships. If someone is using intimate register sa pakikipag-usap sa'yo, tapos wala naman kayong relasyon, syempre, automatically, we'd label that as sexual harassment. Diba? Kasi nga, itong language na to, itong register na to, ay ginagamit lang ng mga may relasyon. So, kung mayroong isang tao who would be talking to you na wala naman kayong romantic relationship using this intimate register, syempre, harassment yun. It is usually tagged as sexual harassment ng babastos, ng mamanyak, kasi nga, pang magjowa lang yung ganong klaseng usapan. Kumbaga, kung may magjowang mag-uusap sa gantong paraan, okay lang, acceptable siya because they are in a relationship. They have romance between them. But if someone not connected to you romantically is using the intimate register to you, it's offensive. Okay? It will be a harassment. Para siyang sexual assault. Ganun. This is the most intimate form of language kasi nga, it is used by lovers. It is best avoided in public and professional situations, syempre. Since ito ay about your affection for one another, tungkol sa pagmamahalan nyo, or maybe about sa inyong mga sexual thoughts, yung mga ganun, it is best kung pag-uusapan niyo siya on your own. Kaya nga siya intimate register pang sa inyo ng dalawa. Hindi pwedeng marinig yan in public or makita yan in public, lalo na in a professional situation, in the workplace. Okay? It includes slang, profanity, and inside jokes. Ibig sabihin, syempre, since this is intimate, this is a level lower than casual register. So, you see slang pa din. Profanity in simple definition is about bad words. Okay, mga cursing, yung mga informal speeches about someone. So, pang intimate register yon. Kasi nga, dahil nga you have an intimate relationship, you have a romantic relationship or sexual relationship, you can speak of anything about each other. You can speak to each other about anything you're thinking of, no matter how good or bad it is that you want to say, pwede mong sabihin kasi nga intimate kayo with each other. It also includes inside jokes. Ibig sabihin, dahil nga intimate kayo with each other, you have a relationship na kailangang meron kayong mga bagay na kailangan nakakaalam. Okay? Kaya meron kayong inside jokes. Okay? Sabihin, meron kayong mga bagay na kayo lang yung nakakaalam. Kaya kaya nyo siyang pagbiyo-biyoan nang walang ibang nakakaintindi na, ano nakakatawa dun? Pero kayo, alam nyo kung ano nakakatawa dun. Kasi nga, meron kayong intimate understanding about something. Okay? So, examples of intimate registers are private conversations, telling secrets, terms of endearment or pet names, flirting, and even non-verbal language. Okay? Yung mga body language natin with our partners, intimate register sila. Now, how do you decide which language register is appropriate to use? Kumbaga pang, how do we know what level of formality we should use in a certain situation? So it's important that you know that. It's kaya nga 'di ba sabi natin when we discussed ethical considerations in communication na dapat by principle you know your audience, you know your topic, you know the context. Kasi nga, if you know all those, if you understand all those, it would be easier for you to identify which language register is best to use dun sa occasion na yon. Now, to test your understanding of this lesson, I want you to answer activity 1, that is on page 17 of your Purposive Communication book, and activity 2 on pages 18 to 19. If you have questions, feel free to send me a message, but I think these are very easy to understand. Again, language register is all about the level of formality in your language. We have 5 language registers. We have the frozen, we have the formal register, the consultative register, then we have casual register, and finally we have the intimate register. I hope the lesson is clear to you guys. Thank you very much for listening and for finishing this video instruction. See you again next time. Goodbye.